Hello, good morning. Welcome to Courageous Conversations. And I'm so happy you're here. So I'm going to just do a little sharing because this is an important topic about what happens when you find yourself in a conversation and then you get a ping of some feeling. So let me just do a little sharing first. Courageous Conversations is for everyone. So I really want everyone to be in on the fun, on the education, on the transformation. So I'm going to first share it in Courageous Conversations, my group, which is a great place for support and really sharing your courageous choices, your acts, your courageous decisions. And there's a community out there, so this is something that you can share in that group. And I'm also going to share it on the Courageous Conversations page, which is also part of the journey, because it's the page associated with this show. And I'm going to share it also on a group or two because I want everyone in that group to be with us. So Positive People Army, and also Find Your Bliss. And then I'll share it later too. But if you want to share as well, that'd be awesome. This was going to be some good information. Okay. Hope everyone's having a good pre-Thanksgiving time where families are going to be congregating and communing. How's everybody feeling about families coming together and communing? And how's everybody feeling about that experience where everyone's just coming together? And have you found yourself in a family conversation, an intimate friendship conversation? Good morning, Scott. I hope you guys arrived well in Peru. My dear, dear friend Scott, I'm so happy that you guys are traveling back home, and hopefully that was a good, peaceful trip. And hi, Tamara. Let me know you're here as you join in on this courageous conversation about getting kind of tweaked, a little bit triggered, maybe a lot triggered, and you don't even know you're triggered, and then you just react and then shoot a dart of passive aggressiveness or explode, or the conversation just descends into hell and you don't know how that happened. And it's so important to really troubleshoot. I'm always saying troubleshoot the self, troubleshoot the conversation, understand what you're doing in that moment. A lot of people are just unconscious and they're just like, shoot the dart, shoot the explosion, shoot it, and then the conversation has gone down the rabbit hole of complete destruction, toxicity, and it's a problem. And when you're dealing with human interpersonal relationships, especially as you're going into these holiday seasons, Thanksgiving and Christmas and all those things. And I'm certainly going to talk a lot in Courageous Conversations about those things. But I really want to head this off right now with some explanations as to what the heck is going on with you, and B, how to get out of it. Because my whole raison d'être, my whole reason for being is let's have constructive, functional, healthy relationships and not repeat dysfunction multi-generationally. Because you know what? The kids are watching. There's a show called The Kids Are All Right. And I'm like, yeah, the kids are all right, but they're also watching and repeating. They're watching and they're repeating you. They're basically doing exactly what you do. So if you model really healthy behavior, you're going to have kids that are going to model healthy behavior in their relationships and in their marriages and in their friendships. And if you don't, I promise you, even if they seem all right, they will later on ingest through sort of metabolize the crap you're sort of exemplifying and modeling. And so let's just talk about what I'm referring to. So you find yourself in a conversation that's going pretty well. Maybe you're having a moment of some sharing, some intimacy, and I'm not talking about sexual intimacy, I'm talking about conversational intimacy. You're sort of sharing some innards. You're not just talking about light level stuff. We're talking about deeper kind of conversational, family kind of conversation, partnership conversation, deep friendship conversation. And the conversation somehow goes off the rails and you're not sure what happened, what occurred. And so, anybody relate to that? Anybody relate to that concept? So here's what I want to talk about. The most important or the most common denominator in that kind of reactivity and trigger and, kind of being kind of bitchy or kind of, a jerk or being passive aggressive or being aggressive or being angry or, just finding yourself tweaked, triggered. Usually and then you find that you need to correct the person, be defensive, maybe corner them, maybe tell them what's what, maybe, get really kind of, no. And they're like, whoa, why did this descend so quickly? And usually, and of course I do a lot of couples therapy, I do adult family therapy, and usually what's happening, just so you know, what's happening is the person that's reacting, that's triggered, is usually feeling deep inside when you uncover everything. They're feeling angry. We know that, but that's a coverall emotion. They're feeling confused and frustrated, also coverall emotions. But underneath, and they're feeling hurt, also a bit of a coverall emotion. But underneath, they're feeling afraid. And usually they're afraid of a future that they're concocting in their mind. So let's have you really look at that, because people are like, afraid? I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of this person. What are you talking about? Like, wait a second. As you break it open, as I'm just giving you a shortcut here to therapy, as you break it open, it's usually fear of things like, hi Tamara, fear of things like, number one, I'm afraid that I'm married to the wrong person. So it's a big fear. Or what kind of a father is this? Or what kind of a friend is this? Or what kind of a future will I have? It becomes this fear, this gigantic fear that just zeroes in on a moment of reactivity. Fear of I'm with the wrong person, fear I'm in the wrong experience, fear that this person is going to control this person, is going to hurt them. It's fear of something in the future. The moment is ruined by fear of something in the future, where the person who's reacting feels they have no power, no choice in that future. And also, it's past obsessing or bringing past trauma. When we have trauma in our life, what is really important to understand is when we have trauma in our life back there in our no power childhood, the biochemistry is going to basically imprint that trauma experience, and you will remember the details of that trauma very specifically. Everything else may be fuzzy, but what occurred, in that trauma time or that trauma moment, and it doesn't have to be, the big traumas like rape and incest and those are big, but it doesn't have to, it can be simply feeling emotionally unsafe in the home, lots of screaming and yelling, those kinds of things where a child is like, oh God, relationships are scary. Family is a scary place. Family is a scary. Good morning, Karen Carrington. I love your name. Relationships, family are a scary place. So the biochemistry, the norepinephrine, the cortisol, all of the adrenaline, all of that is basically imprinting those relational traumas in your brain, burning them in there, creating neural pathways around the concept of relationships and feeling unsafe. And so fast forward into the present moment, adulthood, there's a similar feeling. There's a similar feeling with what occurred back then. But also, that then informs this feeling of, I'm afraid of that future in which I have no control. So the moment is like it's like what's the word? Yeah, like a vortex of reactivity from the past and the future, but the present is not being dealt with like an adult. Oh, I'm itchy nose again. Usually you'll see in my videos when I'm itchy nose, I know I'm on right track. I'm in the right track. Woo! So Scott Blackburn from Peru says, forgiveness and letting go of the past grudges can help you go into these situations and be less reactive to personality that caused you the hurt. Yes. The thing about forgiveness that I find has people stumped is they want to forgive. They have every intention to forgive, possibly their spirituality, their religiousness, their whatever says, yes, I must forgive. But they don't do the deeper. They're saying, oh, yes, I'm forgiving. I can't tell you how many people, Scott, have told me, oh, of course I've forgiven. I've totally forgiven. But they sit in a hidden resentment of an unworked upon, unanalyzed patterning in which they continually repeat that trigger in the moment. So what is needed to truly forgive is you've got to really number one, the biggest way to forgive the traumas from the past, not just say you're forgiving it, but actually to forgive, is to basically shine a light on it. And I say to people, you can reimagine the past. You can reimagine the past by infusing a sense of recontextualizing what happened. For example, if the past was very traumatizing with parents or whatever, there's an amazing experience around visualizing yourself as an adult coming in and rescuing the child. And then the child in you that still holds a grudge will feel less troubled and less. And if you do this repetitively as a visualization, the body does not differentiate between real or imagined. The biochemistry that we emit when we start to really send love and rescue and good energy to the moment of trauma in your memory, that tends to start to break apart that solidness of that trauma, and we start to have new neural pathways forming because we have new biochemistry, new chemicals in our body coming as you visualize the child, for example, being rescued by you, the adult. And then I like to bring in figures from, Archangel Michael, Jesus, Mary, Buddha, a protective animal, bring in a bear to protect you. And if you visualize that over and over, you tend to be able to heal the past. And by the way, don't take my word for this. This is something over 20 plus years that I've seen with people. When they do this exercise, they really, really change their reactivity to those kinds of situations in their present life. So it's it may sound a bit complicated. I hope it doesn't, but actually it's quite wonderful to really sit and reimagine the past. And the other thing is to understand that every single human that walks the planet is a flawed soul, as you are, as I am. We're all flawed. And so we are all deserving of compassion and acceptance. You might not like the actions of the person, but we are not our actions. There's something beyond our actions. There is something beyond our feelings and emotions. We are a soul, I believe, and you can love the soul but despise the actions. And I think that's part of the journey of forgiveness as well. That's a big conversation, and I could go on about that. But this is so crucial about people destroying their relational, their communication with family, friends, and partners. And as we get to these holiday times, Thanksgiving and Christmas and all of that time together with people, we're going to be, confronted with more triggers in this last bit of the year. Can you believe how fast the year is going? So in this last bit of the year, it's this intense time of family. Listen, bless you if you have a family that is just like fantastically fabulous and peaceful and divine. The truth is a lot of people are challenged with that. So remember that in the moment of a conversation, the best thing to do is you have to be observing yourself. You can't just be in the vortex of the reactivity. You have to constantly just be, oh, that's interesting. Like, curious, that's interesting. I'm really pretty triggered right now by what this person is saying. Huh, interesting. I'm kind of feeling angry. And then you have the moment where you get to do something. Write this down. Best sentence, best phrase, best question ever. What's this all about? Ask yourself, what's this all about? Sit with it. And if you have to take a moment from the person, please do. Hang on. Instead of going, reactivity, you go, hang on a second, I'm feeling something. I need a little moment here to understand what I'm feeling. You need to give yourself that time because you are a valuable human being and you get to not rain hell on your communications with your reactions. And understand that your reactions are not about the anger, not about the hurt, not about the confusion, not about feeling, criticized or judged. Really, what you are feeling in that moment is fear. Fear of some future that you can't control. Fear of being seen in some way that you also can't control. It's fear of loss of control. Fear of something you have no control over. And also peppered with, massively, past trauma usually. I find that people who don't have a ton of trauma in their background, and when I talk about trauma, again, it can be simply, violent communication on a regular basis, volatility, never knowing what the mood is of the parent. This can be all perceived as trauma by children, and so the trauma back in here is informing the present, and then the fear of loss of control is informing the moment. Fear of loss of control in the future is informing the moment. And that is what you need to go stop. And what is the question, everybody? What's this all about? What am I feeling here? You have to talk to yourself. Not like you're crazy or anything, but it's important to understand that there's something going on other than you. There's some other observer part of you. Eckhart Tolle talks about this in The Power of Now a lot, which is the witness. Be the witness. And I will add to that, be the witness with curiosity, not with judgment. Simple, neutral, curious. I really want to understand. And that is the most effective way to troubleshoot the self. Troubleshoot the self. Understand what the self is doing in that reactive, split-second, wah moment. And you may not even go, wah. It may be inside going, shutting down, where you're like, it's like, oh, I'm kind of hurt. I'm shut down. I feel overwhelmed. I do that. It's like, that's the child in action too. It's not all outward. It's a lot inward too. This kind of like, I'm shut down. I feel I'm suddenly out of this conversation. I'm suddenly not okay. What happened? I can feel tears in me. I can actually relate to this totally. It's like I'm shut down. I'm done. I'm feeling completely shut down here. And if you don't troubleshoot the self in that moment and go, what's this all about? What's happening here for me? And sometimes it takes time. You may need to write in a journal. You may what's happening here for me? Oh, okay. What's happening is start with what's the obvious. I feel hurt. Oh, that's the obvious. The next one is I feel confused. Next obvious. Why am I what's this all about, this confusion? Oh, well, this person whom I thought really loved me is actually dishing out some criticism or some judgment or some zinger that I don't understand. Oh, okay. Pause. Feel it. What's this all about? Oh, that's the past. It reminds me of my father, mother, aunt, uncle, teacher, bully. Okay, the past. But wait a minute, there's something more. Let's not, ignore really what's here. I'm afraid that this person is going to ruin my reputation, or I'm afraid that I will have no control in some future. I'm afraid that I'm married to the wrong person. I'm afraid that I don't do this. I will be seen as not good enough. I'm afraid. And boy, we've got the confluence of those two things right here, present moment. And then you gotta, excuse me, troubleshoot. I gotta drink some water. Hang on. Troubleshoot the moment. And you troubleshoot the moment by massive amounts of self-compassion, massive amounts of self-acceptance, i.e., that is, you have a right to your feelings. It's not about shutting your feelings off. It's about feeling tremendous compassion for your feelings. And then go about the business of rewiring yourself by visualizing possibly some perfect mother that's in your imagination. I like Mother Mary. I like Archangel Michael, who cuts away from the past. I like Kuan Yin, who's the Asian goddess of compassion, ultimate compassion. She's in my office. I have a statue of Kuan Yin to remind me to be compassionate, because I'm human, right? So I imagine Kuan Yin showering me with love. I imagine Archangel Michael cutting the cord, the black tar cord of connection to that to that hurtful past and to that toxic fear that's ruining my moment. And then you can come to a moment much cleaner, much cleaner. So that's what we're talking about here. How are you guys doing with that? I feel like that's a big chunk that I want people to listen to, like, over and over and over again, so you can really troubleshoot the self in the moment when you're in reactivity and that whole fight is going down the rabbit hole of hell. Don't do it. Just sit with it. So I hope this was helpful. I'm going to be sharing this video widely because I feel that this is so important as we go into the Thanksgiving and all of that stuff. And I want people to understand that you don't have to repeat old patterns when you're in family situations, relational situations. You can actually create a new moment. You can be new with each moment of family experiencing and relational experiencing and friendship and partnership experiencing. You don't have to. And by doing this, troubleshoot the self. Everybody, troubleshoot the self. Don't just let it just sit there. Don't just be at the mercy of the vortex of the reactivity. No. You don't have to do that. And tell yourself, I don't have to be doing the same thing I just did 10 times, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I can do something different in this moment. So give that a try. Okay? Happy Thanksgiving! If you celebrate it. And if you're not, you know what? Take yourself out for dinner or whatever it is that this weekend holds for you. And be kind to yourself. Be compassionate with yourself. Love yourself. Give yourself time to troubleshoot your reactions. Don't just let it sit there. Because, then there's guilt and there's shame and then there's all this other crap you got to deal with. So deal with it in the moment, okay? And if you need space, do that too. All right. Take the space. Be well. Have a courageous conversation with yourself and with someone else. I'll be back live on Tuesday, and I got a great guest on Wednesday about money. Oh, she's fabulous. And I'll be talking about some, post-Thanksgiving stuff. But I just want to say, have a brilliant day. Big hugs. Love.